Good morning, folks. Guess who again? It's us, Captain Freddy and Little Joy, Little Honey Buns, Sweetie Pie. Did I tell you how I got her? That's a funny story. Craigslist. We love our Craigslist. Yes, sirree dandy. And her mom looked just like her, because the people that I got her off of brought the mommy along, and she was 10 years old and had never had pups, and got out one night, and you know what happened? They thought she was just gaining weight. She had I think it was three pups. Anyway, that's the first time I ever bought a dog on Craigslist, and the most expensive dog I've ever had in my whole entire life. But she's just a wonderful thing. She was 2 months old when I first got her. I'll show you some videos. I'll insert some videos when I first got her. Just a little itsy bitsy thing, cutie. Anyway, getting back to my story of my travels since becoming a nomad, and I was living on the boat there in Warrington, Oregon. I had moved up from LA, where I had a 33-foot motorhome there. So anyway, I have this reoccurring throughout my life since I was in my teens, knee joint that goes out on me, and it went out on me really big time this time, and had to have surgery. Cartilage was king, I forget what they call it. Anyway, and so I lost my job there at KOA. Really bummed out about that and stuff, and so I went into a kind of a depression. And when I was in that depression and stuff, I locked up the boat and just took off. In my, I had a little SUV, Bronco type. It was a small one. It wasn't a Bronco. Anyway, with the little kitty cat, which wasn't little anymore, she was full grown, and just headed north this time. I really didn't have any destination, but anyway, I ended up in Billingham, Washington, and you know, just kind of check things out. I always check out the harbors first. It had a pretty good harbor there and stuff, and you know, I had a certain amount of money that I had left. I had savings, and I knew that I was going to go through that fast if I rented a place or, you know, whatever. So I decided to check out the mission there. I had never stayed in the mission before either. So it was called the Lighthouse Mission there in Billingham, Washington. And I actually got a job there, working the front desk, which was really interesting. Anyway, so they had a little parking lot there. I parked my car, and I kept the kitty cat in the vehicle while I was working there. You know, I'd come out a number of times to see how she's doing, you know. And finally, the guys at the mission, the people that used the mission stuff, said, "Hey man, bring her in on your when you're working and stuff," and because there was a little foyer there with chairs and anyway and stuff. So I did. I brought her in, and she made herself at home. She sat on one of the chairs all day, and everybody, you know, loved her and petted her, and all the staff just loved her. Anyway, so this one evening, that was a Christian mission there, And so they every night they had a different pastor that would come around, and they had a little auditorium there that they would have services. Anyway, so I'm working the desk there, and they're having a service, and this guy was really preaching up a storm. He was, as they say, on fire, loud. Anyway, so the kitty cat, I don't know what got into her, but she decided to go investigate this. So the door was open just a little crack, and so I wasn't paying attention to her, and so, excuse me, she makes her way in there, and I heard this laughter, and so I peeked in, and she was up on stage behind the pastor, just sitting there looking up at him, adoringly. And those guys, there was probably 60, 70 guys, and they were just busted a gut. And the preacher thought it was him. He thought it was his sermon. So he just got louder and louder. His face was red and spittle was coming out and stuff, and oh my God, it was just unbelievable. Anyway, so she became legend there. And guess what, folks? They adopted her. That was their cat from then on. And she was famous in that area. So when I moved, came back to Warrington, I didn't have a kitty with me, but I knew she had a really good home and people that loved her. Anyway, so I got home, and my boat was half sunk because I've been gone 3 months, and I had a bilge pump in back, but the front section of the boat didn't have a bilge pump, and it filled up with water. And my neighbors there that lived there on boats and stuff, well, they were gonna, pump it out and stuff, but they couldn't get in because I had it all locked up. So anyway, I went in. Oh, I forgot to tell you. I picked up a couple guys at the mission there. One of them was a Polish guy who hardly spoke any English, and another guy, really nice guys, And the reason I took them down with me to Warrington and stuff because they wanted to work on the fishing boats. They had worked on fishing boats before, so I thought, well, maybe they can get a job on a fishing boat. So anyway, I took them down, and I let them stay on the boat with me until they got a job. So both of them did get jobs within less than a week. One of them at a fish cannery, and another one on a boat. And I don't remember which was which, but anyway, so where was I? Train of thought, old folks, bloopers. So gosh, where was I in my story? Got back. I'll take a short recess here, and try to get the brain back on track. Okay, huh? Know what it was now. Anyway, I was bailing. They were helping me bail out the boat, and because it was like almost a foot deep, a lot of water. Oh my God, that was a lot of water. And when you know it, I had my whole life. I had VCR tapes from back when I was married, before I was married, after I was married, just like 30, 40 VCR tapes that I had taken, home movies and things like that, on my travels. And pictures, all my pictures, like when I was 5 years old. I got adopted at 5 years old, and I had a really cute little picture of me in a cowboy outfit. The whole thing, it had 2 guns, and and cowboy hat, and just cowboy boots, and the whole thing. It was really cute. Lost all those. I was really devastated. I can understand when people lose their houses from fires and tornadoes and floods and all that kind of stuff. It's just devastating because you had all these fond memories, and you no longer have them. So anyway, we got her all bailed out. And thank God I had those 2 guys, because boy, it would have taken me a couple days to bail that thing out myself. Anyway, so probably a week after they had been living on the boat and stuff, we had a terrible storm. And that's back in the days when those storms hit really hard there. Since I moved out of there, they haven't had the severe weather as they've had. But I got woken up one morning and it was just blowing like the dickens. I think it was like 60 to 80 mile an hour winds, something like that. And the boat is just rocking. And I was worried about the guys, so I got up out of my stateroom there and went and checked them out and stuff. And they were both dead to the world. Didn't even faze them at all. Anyway, so like I said, they got jobs and stuff, and I told them, as soon as you get jobs and stuff, you need to find a place, and but it was really funny. The Polish gentleman, can't remember what his name was offhand. He got drunk one time, and the cops picked him up, and he was yelling at the cops, "Oh, don't touch, I'm KGB, I'm KGB." It was hilarious. Oh, jeez. Yeah, so whether he was KGB in Poland, who knows? He was old enough to be. Oh gosh, I forgot the story, the backstory to that. When I left Billingham, Washington, the mission there, that's right. I got to back up. The reason I left up there was that this older gentleman asked me. He said he would, if I would drive him to Jackson Hole, Wyoming, he would pay for the trip and pay for the food and all that kind of stuff, because he was a chef at one of the resorts over there. So I said, sure. And so anyway, I took him and then those other 2 guys, like I said before about with them. And that was quite a trip too, because from Billingham, Washington, we went the back way into Yosemite and Wyoming there and on up through there. And the funny thing was, the parks office at Yosemite, you go through this big gate and then the big old parks office there, which is really cool because there's hot spots, these geysers and little pools of, it's just really cool. And we put our applications there. I did too, because in the summertime they hire a lot of people. But we were told at the personnel office there and stuff, what happens is they hire college kids first. And they told us the college kids get homesick about the 2nd month in and they all quit. So Yellowstone actually has buses and rents buses to go around to all over the countryside to get people to work in the park. Yeah, so that was interesting. And then we drove from the personnel office, all through Yellowstone, that's when they had the fire there. Remember that? That gigantic fire in Yellowstone? And it was just devastating. I mean, mile after mile after mile after mile. Anyway, and then we went by the Grand Tetons, which are really cool, and into Jackson Hole, Wyoming, which is really not Jackson Hole. There's no hole, and it's just Jackson, Wyoming. I found that out. Just a real little town. Gee whiz, by what you hear about it and stuff, you think this big metropolitan thing, but it was small. Anyway, so we got there, and this guy, like I said, worked at his resort, and they have, what they do is they buy old hotels, the resort does, and the staff gets free housing in those old motels. But the rest of us, the three of us and stuff, there was no place in town, that we could stay. Oh, take that back. There was a mission there also, a really cool mission. I'll talk about that later. Yeah, maybe I better wound this up because it's getting kind of long. I'm getting kind of winded. So I'll get this thing, all done and whatever. And tell you about the Jackson Hole. That's a whole another recording there and stuff. Before I go back to Morgantown. Good thing I remember that and stuff, because this is a really interesting story too. Real funny stuff, and that's a real interesting one. So anyways, tune in, subscribe, like, post your comments, and hope you enjoy. Have a good one.